Шкрысь. Нормально?
Добрий день, я вітаю всіх, хто приєднався до нас.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to see everyone who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. My name is Olga Atamanova. So today our first broadcast will be dedicated to the bad weather that spread through our country during the weekend. So today we will be talking about the aftermath and the forecast with the State Emergency Service representatives and the representative of Hydrometeorological Center of the State Emergency Service. So what are the forecasts for the time being? What should we expect shortly? Our first speaker is Natalia Ptucha, head of the Media Communications Department of the Ukrainian Meteorological Center of Ukraine. So Ms. Natalia, what should we expect for within the next days or weeks? So good afternoon, everybody. We had quite a dynamic weekend. There was a lot of elements raging all around Ukraine. The information was posted back on Thursday. There was a forecast of an active cyclone coming from the south. The most threatening conditions were in Mykolaiv and Odessa regions. And then as the cyclone was moving into the northeastern direction through Kirovograd region, Cherkasy region, left bank of Kiev region, Chernihiv, part of Poltava and Sumy regions. So those are the regions, not all over the territories of those regions. The snow precipitation is from 15 to 20 millimeters. So is the cover that is documented at the open grounds of meteorological stations. In Odessa region, the level of snow was reaching 30 centimeters, specifically in meteorological station of Vilkovo. So it created blizzards and again and snow accumulations, because 27 centimeters is the level that again was registered at the open grounds, but in other areas it could have created some accumulations due to the snow, like in some regions of Kirovograd, Poltava and Sumy regions. It was mostly wet snow, sticking wet snow, and icing that started being destroyed now. The cyclone is leaving the territory of Ukraine through the territory of Sumy and Chernihiv region, the northeastern part of Ukraine, so it's mostly outside the country. And now we have like residual conditions in Chernihiv and Sumy regions, represented by small snowing. Further on, like tomorrow and today in the evening, the situation will be more calm. We will have a small break tomorrow. Tomorrow in the western regions we may observe wet snow and rain in the Zakarpattia region, but on the night of Wednesday we will have another cyclone coming with a different trajectory. This previous cyclone was coming from the Black Sea territory, and the next one will be coming from southwest through western part of Ukraine, through Vinnytsia region. This is where it will be coming from. So we expect precipitations all over Ukraine on Wednesday. The cyclone will cover most of the territory of Ukraine, and in western part it will be mostly snow with a temperature between 0 and -6, and in Vinnytsia, Chernihiv, Poltava and Kharkiv region it will be wet snow with the rest of the territory covered by rain. So it's a mixed phase of precipitations. The same situation will be in Kiev. Well, the precipitations may start with rain that will transform into snow. It will be more saturated with humidity and thus heavier, which will create more difficulties for municipal utility services. The wet snow is more difficult to clear. Well, do we understand it correctly that there will be no significant fall of temperature? And if we would expect it, so when? Yes, right. There will be no drastic fall of temperature, like rigorous frost. And right on contrary, in the south of Ukraine, the temperature may rise up to over 10 degrees above zero, which is uncharacteristic temperature for December. The snow will melt in the southern regions, but in the northern part of Ukraine it will be still remaining in Volyn, Rivne, Zhytomyr and Kiev regions. The southern regions may be less influenced by the second cyclone. And this second cyclone, how long will it stay in Ukraine? It will be quite active. It will start in the Tuesday afternoon, night of Wednesday. So the Wednesday night will be the most active phase of it. And again, it will be leaving our territory through this region of Sumy in the same direction. Ms. Natala, I cannot help but asking, what will be the winter we should expect for? Well, it's more of a question to climatologists, but the general tendency is that the cold periods in Ukraine become shorter. So the number of cold days during winter is smaller than earlier. So the tendency inclines to warm winters. It doesn't include or exclude any effects like heavy snowing, cyclones from the southwest. It's a classic situation for Ukraine in terms of snowing, but those cyclones are shorter lasting than previously. We see the temperature swings now, like one day we don't have precipitations, another day there is rain or snow, and on Friday we will have another atmospheric front coming, and you will be able to find out more details about it on the website of Hydrometeorological Center. Ms. Natalia, what about the wind? We know it complicates a lot of weather conditions and conditions of living generally. So during the second cyclone, how strong will be the bursts? Well, we expect the speed of wind to be lower than compared to the previous cyclone and historic observations, but for meteorological station of Vilkovo, 35 meters per second is a historic record basically. And the next cyclone that we expect, yes, obviously the cyclones are always accompanied by the winds, but the velocity will be in the range of 12-22 meters per second. We will double check this information tomorrow, but the next cyclone will not be as destructive as the previous one. However, the precipitations will cover all the territory of Ukraine. Thank you very much. Before we proceed to the representative of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, dear colleagues, do we have any questions on the floor? Well, now that we do not, thank you very much, Ms. Natalia. So, Mr. Oleksandr, please, the floor is yours. Our next speaker is Mr. Oleksandr Khorunzhiy, the press officer of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Mr. Oleksandr, we know that bad weather caused a lot of problems. So how did the State Emergency Service cope with all those problems? Good afternoon, everybody. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Well, I have to say we were prepared to such developments. Thanks to the efforts of our colleagues from the Hydrometeorological Center, we work all together, and as soon as we get such notifications of storms, we organize the work to prevent any consequences using all material and personnel. And it's important to get a notification on it in a timely manner, because we were warning the people about the complications of the weather conditions. So what about now? As of this information, as of 14 o'clock today, Ukrhydrometeorological reported that the passage on the roads is free. However, the transport is not moving in 12 roads, 8 in Mykolaiv region, 3 in Odessa region, 1 in Kirovograd region. On top of that, the movement of cargo trucks is prohibited in one road in Mykolaiv region, including the passenger buses, 3 in Cherkasy region, 3 in Odessa region, and 1 in Kirovograd region. We have restriction in Kiev region and lifted, as well as the entrance of the cargo trucks to the city of Kiev. Talking about the loss of power in the settlements, there are 1,638 towns and villages cut off from the electric supply. Most of them fall on Kiev, Odessa, and Mykolaiv regions. To mitigate the consequences of unfavorable weather conditions, there were 1,215 rescuers involved, plus more than 1,000 units of material. The most complicated situation was in Odessa region, since the epicenter of the bad weather was coming from that area, for what I understand. And it resulted in a situation when the roads were significantly covered in snow, specifically in south and north of Odessa regions. The level of cover was reaching 1.5 meters, which resulted in traffic gaps where a lot of cars were accumulated. So we've responded once again with the personnel and material. Also, the mitigation of consequences involved the operation of our partners from State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine, who was using the tow trucks and such material as Bogun, all-terrain vehicles. It was used quite successfully for evacuation of population and for pulling the light vehicles from blizzard. In Odessa, there was a number of cargo trucks that are in the reserve areas, so that the roads can be cleared and the light vehicles can be evacuated from the snowy road. Also in Odessa region, there are 13 casualties with the signs of frosting. 8 persons were provided medical aid. There were 216 reports to the State Emergency Service by the population. We also involved 12 ambulances, removed 44 fallen trees. So this is the situation in Odessa region. We were also involved in rescue works in Kirovograd region. So the most active works were in Cherkasy and Mykolaiv region. I can give you detailed statistics for every region. Yes, please. And we would also like to find out about the vehicles who ended up in the blizzard. Do we know what is the total number of such vehicles? Well, as I mentioned, we were able to tow 1,300 light vehicles, basically those who ended up in the snow, in the blizzard, and were people who were in need of help. state emergency service deployed more than 1,000 heating stations, and where the trucks and light vehicles stay in the reserve grounds, or where such heating stations had to be deployed to heat the population, it was done so people were able to heat themselves, get some hot tea before the road is cleared, and when the vehicles can be towed away from the road to the reserve grounds. We have also mobile heating stations that are based on the trucks. Well, talking about other regions, in Cherkasy region the precipitations are still on. Near the city of Kamenka, the unit of the State Emergency Service installed a mobile heating stations. We've hauled 60 vehicles, removed 25 fallen trees, and one advertising board that ended up on the road. It was also removed to clear the way. In Kirovohrad region, the precipitations are over. There is temporary restriction of the automobile transport in two sections of the roads near the village of Velika Viska, Novoukrayinka district. There is a 2-kilometer gap due to the snow cover of 80 centimeters in the road, and the State Emergency Service rescuers are working to clear the road. 30 cargo trucks are still located in the curb there, and more than 40 fallen trees were removed to clear the way. We've provided aid to the 310 citizens. In Kirovohrad region, we have also 4 heating stations deployed. In Mykolaiv region, currently the precipitations are over. In 10 sections of the roads, the movement is still restricted. The movement is complicated in the main ways because the snow cover may reach up to 2 meters over there. There were up to 60 reports, up to 16 calls to the State Emergency Service. We've involved engineering material of the State Emergency Service to help our utility service companies to clear the roads. Also, according to the information from the National Police of Ukraine, in the places of temporary stationing, where in those areas where the weather conditions were the most complicated, we have around 1,700 cargo trucks, and for the time being we wait for everything to be cleared. And what I also want to mention is that we have the operational staffs on the local and central level to mitigate the consequences of the bad weather. The staff receives the information from all of the services that provide help and support. They analyze that information and take the decision to renew or restrict the movement of transport in the roads. Mr. Oleksandr, well, we understand that meteorological centers mentioned that the cyclone left the country. So what is the advice to the drivers who abstain from moving their vehicles elsewhere when the time will come that they will be able to move easily? Well, the advice is to listen to the information from the official sources. It's been communicated not only by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, but also by the National Police and Ukrhydrometeorological. So as soon as the information about opening or closure of the roads is emerging, please comply with such advice. On top of that, we were asking the drivers multiple times, and I personally, on my way to work, I was observing a picture when the drivers were trying to drive up the slope, but they were driving on summer tires and they were not able to do so, which resulted in emergency situations on the roads. So dear drivers, please change your tires to winter tires, and when there is a storm warning, when we warn that it's better to abstain from any journeys in certain regions of the country, please listen to such advice and postpone your journey. If it's an emergency, then please take all the safety measures. Don't hurry, first of all. Observe the speed regime, maximum distance between the vehicles. In the crossroads, please brake, but not drastically, because it may create the effect of a ski rink. The pedestrians should be careful because the drivers may not always notice the pedestrians in such weather conditions. It's better to have the light reflecting flickers on your clothing to make sure that the drivers better see you. And also, if there is no necessity and the situation is not critical, please don't leave your homes. And in case of any information about the strong bursts of the wind, like 25-30 meters per second, that's a very strong gust of wind, and as a result you can see that the trees were falling almost in all the regions of Ukraine, not only because of the wind but also because of the wet snow. So please stay away from the trees, the advertising boards. Also make sure to park your vehicles on a distance from such structures. Well, Mr. Oleksandr, we understand that the life goes on. Not all of the people can stop their situations. They have to take some journeys during situations like this. I'm sure that for your service it's always accompanied for the rescue stories. Can you please share a couple of such stories with you? Well, we live in such stories during all of our work, but I would like to highlight our Odessa colleagues who were providing help to the pregnant women, and thanks to the efforts of our rescuers and the National Police of Ukraine, they were able both to deliver children, and in Odessa region the medical vehicle was not able to reach that pregnant woman, and the rescuers from Sergivka village accompanied her to the maternity home. The medics successfully got the child delivered at home. However, both the newborn and the mother had to be delivered to the maternity home, and due to the huge snow cover, the firefighting truck was not able to move all the way to the maternity home. So they had to stop near the resilience station, or at the resilience station, because when we installed them for a reason, and after they were able to wait for the weather to become better, both mother and the newborn child were delivered to the maternity home. The girl was called Victoria, maybe in the name of the victory that we all await for. Well, thank you for the good news. So let's wrap up our broadcast. So please adhere to the advice of the State Emergency Service at all times. Yes, what I also would like to add, that our telephone 101 is not changing, and in case of any emergency you can always call and get the necessary help. So let's remember 101. Joining us were Oleksandr Khorunzhiy and Natalia Ptucha. Thank you very much for this information. Our next briefing is at 1500. We will be talking about the blockade on our borders and the consequences of this blocking. So bear with us. We continue working together for our victory. We want to thank our security and defense forces for all they're doing. Glory to Ukraine.